8:07 a.m., 8/3/2017. Good morning. I wasn't really going to share this letter, but I decided to. I did share it with my son. Okay? In case some kind of black ops happens to me, some kind of black flag event, or I'm suddenly found in the lake. You know what I mean? Okay. This was about how my husband and I were totally able in the 90s, and I forget the exact year, I am sorry. I've been through so much mind-boggling stuff. I'm pretty jangled for a lot of different things. And that's not an excuse. That's just how it is. Okay? Totally able to buy. It was a house, the actual original Melita daycare is still there. And I know the woman, or knew the woman, spent time with her after 95 when she moved there. And I met her even after I met her guy husband. Well, I don't guess they were legally married, but they had a child together. So anyway, he's dead, and I'd go over and have coffee, and she'd come over, and a lot of times just fling the door open and walk in. Well, that kind of creeped me out a lot of times, to hear the door open like that and footsteps come across, and me not see anybody until they're already pretty much into the house. So when I'd go over to her house, I'd knock, make her come to the door. That way, if she's laying there in her underwear on the couch watching TV, she has time to slip her pants on to get to the door, not just fling the door open. So anyway, she lived there as far as well, the last time I knew. I think the last time I saw her, it was at the Dollar General in Sedalia on East Broadway. And she was a good person to talk to, would talk to me about some of the same stuff that I would talk about if people would go there. Okay, but our downtown house was directly to the south of her downtown house. Alright, it was her house, and then the road, and then an empty lot that we mowed and came with our house, and then our house. Okay, but I'm really sure it was within 1,000 feet. Okay, so my spouse, as many of you have heard repeatedly, because I've been going on like this since like 97, when I got the state files, because he got it up to state level. Let me think, where was I going with that one? Brain damage. Oh, I don't know now. Oh, okay, yeah. He was charged as a repeat offender on a prior that didn't exist. A non-existent prior. And this was the letter I wrote to, as you can see, Donald Trump, whom I addressed as Mr. President, because that's what I believe he is, despite any other Hillary thing. Okay. The non-existent prior was a convenience. It's an off-again, on-again thing. Alright, as I state in this letter, and I'm not going to read it, you can read it. You can even print screen or do a screen cap if you want to read it that badly, or pause, you know. Non-existent. There's my word I was looking for. Non-existent prior. And he was sentenced as a repeat offender based on this non-existent prior. And my basis for calling it a non-existent prior or a non-prior, despite what the court says and what was said back then, is we moved in across the street from a daycare. That's not allowed. That is so not allowed. Do you see what I'm saying? Somebody gets my drift. I'm really sure they do. They're just not going to involve themselves at this point or risk whatever they might have going on. Similarly, similar things they have going on, or because they still live there and they just don't want to deal with the up-in-your-face stuff that has been known to happen from some of this. Okay? The bottom line is, if he had had a prior, which there must have been because he was sentenced as a repeat offender, but if there was a prior, then how did he buy that house? I mean, how did we contract that house for deed? We did a contract for deed. My mother hated how it was set up, and she told Millie so 2 or 3 different times. It was the Currys. It was one of their privately owned houses. And we weren't able to get a loan, so we had to take this route. And we were tired of paying the sky-high rent for so little of nothing. You know, $500+ one time for a 2-bedroom, possibly 3-bedroom if you worked it right, over on East 4th, there in that block just to the east of the post office and behind it, down from the Catholic Church. See, we didn't move very far. We didn't move very far at all. But see, this is going to plague me, so I'm going to lay it on you and let it rip. If he had had a prior, we wouldn't have gotten that house. Okay? Because the Currys were very social people, as far as I understand, in this thing and that thing. And you know how it is with the rumors in Sedalia. Rumor has this, rumor has that, rumor has it. You know, this one, that one, or the other one says, which is kind of their consortium, the day that things really just don't get past. Someone, even the social worker, because that all started for us heavily when we lived in that house I had just described on East 4th. And it was a good guy. One of my cousins, well, she said she was my cousin. I never really knew her. She never attended anything socially with my family, weddings or wedding showers or, you know, funerals or dinners or anything. But she was living with him, and we rented from this guy, and between him and her, they always got us stuff to do fix-ups. Like, they bought the paint, we painted their house, and she even bought the lace for me so I could make curtains, and bought me a couple of roses so I could plant roses, because I was specific about the color. It was yellow and pink. And she came over laughingly, told me that she had to hunt high and low to find that specific rose, but she did. And the miracle of it was that one Thanksgiving we were there and it had begun to snow, and there was a rose on that rose bush to the east of the house, or on the west side of the house, toward the post office, that was in full rage and bloom. And I mean, when I stepped off that porch that day, because we rode with my mom and dad to another dinner, it was out of town dinner. We'd always carpool. And I noticed that rose standing there so stately in that pile of snow that was starting to make me upset, because we're going to have to drive out of town back home in snow and hard telling, you know, how you are. What's it going to do by the time we're on our way back, right? So, I don't know where I was even going with that. I ramble so bad. You see why some people shouldn't do YouTubes. Okay. Anyway, that's where it started in the house, for us, when one of the neighbors had called and said that I had drug my son up concrete steps, and when we got home from church that next day, because it didn't happen on the day they came over, it happened, you know, 1 or 2 or whatever days, probably the previous day, because they're usually pretty quick to answer things, or they were. And we were still dressed in church clothes, and Bradley hadn't changed either, because that was our thing to do. When we get home from church, you change out of those clothes into something a little more lax for the afternoon. So I called out to my son to come into the front room. Someone wanted to see him, or needed to see him. I said, "No, look at his knees, at his legs." He had on a little short set that his aunt had sent him. "Does he look like he's been drug up concrete steps? That would scratch, right?" And she's like, "Well, we just have to, you know, it's our job to answer calls. We get calls, we got to check them out." Well, I understand that, and I told her so. I understand that fully. It's when they don't answer calls and something bad happens that people get all up in arms. But still, with this, we were being called on when nothing actually happened. And that's what started it for us. And the same woman that was partly behind all that then, she wasn't the first social worker, some other whoever. She was the one behind getting John put in prison. Okay? I never liked her, and we tried to get her switched off of ours. You know, we knew that they were going to be there until they decided not to be there in our life. We might as well accept that. So we kept rather calm for the most part. That if they were going to have to continue, maybe we could continue with a different social worker. But they didn't allow that. Pardon me, all over myself. Okay? So, back to the socialness of Sedalia. I wasn't all that social after my high school years. When I graduated high school, 1980, I pretty much stuck with the 12-step groups. They're not a social club, okay? I remember someone bringing that out one night. AA is not a club, okay? It's there to help you. And I went because my mother pretty much wanted me to go. I, for a long time, never thought I was an alcoholic, but I went anyway and made my mom proud, okay? So I may have to come back to this one too. I know I've said that on several videos, that I might have to come back, but then I just kind of, you know, well, I said what I'm going to say and go on to the next thing. So, clicking down on the time, you know, timer clicking. Thanks.